What is up, everyone? Today we are going to go over the potential issue with leaving your pressure washer outside during the winter and what can happen. Because as you can tell, something bad happened to this machine and we have to fix it. And let's just say it's not the cheapest of repair. So I'll go over how much it's cost a person. I'm going to go over briefly on how to find out what we're going to need to do to get a new pump. Spoiler, we need a new pump. And we're going to go over the installation. So stay tuned till the end so you know how much this can cost you if you decide to make this error. So this pump right here is the one that came with it. We're going to go over what happened and how to prevent it, and if it does happen, how to repair it. So basically, see this crack? Whenever the owner turned it on, there was this giant amount of water coming out of here, and the pressure really wasn't all that great. What happens is water gets in there because it's a pump and stays in there because it's not evacuated. You can't really get all the water out unless you go over what we're going to do. But when it's cold outside and it freezes, water expands. When it freezes, expanding water, if it doesn't have any place to go, makes a place to go and cracks the pump. There we go. That's what happened. So the way to avoid that is if you go to your local hardware store, big box store, online, whatever, get something called Pump Saver. Basically what it is you take your gun out, which in this pump actually goes right here, and then it just has like a normal fitting a garden hose would have, and you put it in there and you spray until you start to see foam or whatever the pump saver you bought is spraying inside come out the other end. Once that you see that, it's ready to go. You're set. You could put it outside, ideally not in rain or snow, but you can leave it outside or in an unheated shed or something, and you won't have to worry about this. The water won't actually expand. No pump. So what do we have to do? We have a new pump. Went over with the owner on what we can do, and he decided to go with this pump. That's why I call the Amazon special. So let's go ahead and get started. First, we measured the shaft. It's 7/8. This style, you really only need to know three things: the motor you have, the horsepower, the shaft size, and if it's vertical or horizontal. You know those three things, you find a pump that has the same three things that you need, and you're set. 3/4 and 7/8 are the most common for this size. They do go up to 1 inch and above, but generally not so much, especially not for that engine. So this is going to be the hard part. I employ some blocks usually. You need to put the engine on there, perhaps even two, or something else, who knows. If you have a friend, that's even easier, but we need to put the engine on there so it's kind of roughly on, and then we need to get the mounting hardware. Now the mounting hardware, it did come with mounting hardware with the pump, but that was the mounting hardware that came off of the old pump, and with the exception of maybe, I think there's one longer one. We might just use the new one. Don't know yet. We might just use the old. It might be the same as the old. Let's see. Our package of goodies. Yeah, it looks like it's about the same as the old, except for this long one. We might use the long one. Lock washer or lock nuts, washers. Is there a key in here? There is a key. Okay, good. That's important because if your key is not, well, if you're replacing a pump, you probably have a key, but if your new pump comes with a key, I recommend using the key because that's the key that came with the pump, and just would make more sense to do that. The struggle is real on this one. My hoist is not working, mainly because I haven't installed it yet, so we have to do it the old-fashioned way. Okay, for now, we're just going to leave it right there. The easiest part, we have fuel leaking. I knew that was going to happen. I put a bag in there, but I don't think that bag is working very well. If you're unaware, if you put a plastic bag over the inlet of a fuel tank and put the cap on, It usually stops it from leaking, but we didn't get that lucky today. Okay, I think we're gonna get lucky on this one. Sometimes I don't have enough space to actually work, but the shaft is kind of shallow, and I'm thinking the engine's high enough off the ground I don't have to tip it over. You might have to tip it over in some of them, but this one I'm hoping I don't have to. What I did, however, though, is with the key in the shaft, I put the key facing the front of the engine on the shaft. In addition to that, I need to rework this. The inlet and the outlet are going to be facing the front as well, so I need this keyed way to move over. It's not the easiest thing in the world to move with your hands, but you can. So I'm going to move this 180 degrees out. In addition to that, I have some anti-seize. I'm going to go over, I'm going to put on the shaft. That does two things. One, makes it easier to install, and two, it will make it so the key stays in place usually. Kind of gives it something there that we're not trying to juggle both. So I'm going to go ahead and get that coated. I'm going to grab another smaller block, because once I put that pump on there, there's really nothing holding it on there except for my hand, and my hand needs to be used to put the bolts in. So I'm going to have something there to kind of hold it in place. The benefits of working in your garage is you get to have people come to you, and they're doing all kinds of things. One of them is selling jerky sticks to go to outdoor school. So I'm going to have a jerky stick and then we'll get working. It's actually a few days later, and I'm feeling pretty under the weather. I had to quit, but more or less, I have it installed. Sometimes they will give you spacers because the type of machine you need will need to actually have them. This one does require it because the sump has this little dip into it, and it just requires it. So on this one I did have to put the spacers on. No big deal, it's what happens sometimes, but we did run into a little bit of a problem. The tank that was here, which is actually right there, we can't put this pump the way the other one was, where it's facing the front. It has to face the rear based on the bolt holes. In order for me to do the front, I would have to switch the engine to the other side, in which case it's going to be, the exhaust is going to be straight into the handle. Not going to work. So we unfortunately did have to get rid of that. But, you know, it's what happens when you leave your pump out in the wintertime. Oh well. Now, something you do want to do after you get it installed is give the handle a pull with the ignition off. And it doesn't have to be a fast pull. It probably shouldn't be a fast pull, actually. You want to make sure there's no binding. If there's binding, perhaps the pump is at an angle, and if you were to turn it on like that, you'd probably just rip it off and break it. So don't do that. Give it a nice smooth pull and see what happens. I'm going to put you down, we'll do the same. I am just too nice working when I'm sick, but the person wants it today for whatever reason. Oh yeah. It's on. We should be ready to go. You can turn this on with no water. Just don't turn it on for very long. A couple seconds just to make sure everything's okay is fine. There's two things you don't want to do. Well, three things technically. You don't want to leave it out in the winter. We know that one the hard way. We don't want to have a hose connected to it and not using the gun for long periods of time. It's just not a good idea. It damages the pump. And another thing is you don't want to run it dry for a super long period of time. If you stay away from those three items, you're pretty much set. So, I'm going to leave you at that. Yeah, so that's what happens when you leave your pressure washer outside and the pump freezes. You have to go through all this nonsense, but I did say how much it's going to cost. This pump, after giving the owner a couple options, he chose to go with the Amazon route. I got it in one day. It was $60 on sale. Usually it's $72. It's a 3,100 PSI pump at 2.5 gallons per minute, I believe. Let me just double check that real quick. Shipping was free because it was on Amazon. I think that was a real kicker on that one. The other options it would have been more or less the same thing, except it would have been a higher quality, in my opinion, off of a couple different websites. Jack Small Engines, for one. I believe the pump on there was $110 with a $18 delivery fee. So, you know, it's quite a bit different. Yes, 3,000 psi at 2.5 gallons per minute. So we should be good to go. This engine is more than powerful enough to run that according to the manufacturer's requirements. So we should be fine. I'm not going to say how much I charge to install because, well, that's between me and the owner. You can charge whatever you want, or if this is your own, you know, you saved yourself whatever that amount of money is. I can tell you that I've had people who have bought pumps on Amazon or eBay, taken them to a local repair shop about 3 minutes away from my house, and then swiftly drove to my house because they were going to charge them $89 just to install the pump. What you saw today was $89 worth of work. If I wasn't recording, this probably would be, I don't know, 15 minutes, maybe. That's if the tank won't stop leaking, I'm swearing, trying to find different plastic bags, stuff like that. But $89 for that, that's pretty ridiculous. So you potentially could save yourself $90 if you live where I live. I'm going to leave you at that. Follow me on Instagram at SmallEngine101. I'll see you in the next video. You have a good rest of your day.